Okay, good morning, world. How are we today? Pop a light on. Still pretty dark this morning. It looks darker than it is. It's a bit brighter outside. Anywho, what are we talking about this morning? Well, I was looking at a article on my phone. It's like Google News or whatever, and it was talking about the 6,000 odd homes that are going to get destroyed if they demolish the public housing towers. I believe it was in Carlton that they were talking about these ones. And, they said that they were going to be demolished by 2050, right? Okay, so number one, I would like to point out that is quite some time away. Okay, it is quite some time away. All right, I don't know if there's going to be a gradual process where they are kicking people out of the towers already now. That would be a problem. I could see how that would be alarming and stressful and all the rest of it. But if you're still looking at a good 20 years to be able to live in the accommodation there, that's not so bad. 20 years to find a new living situation is not so bad, is it? I think people need to really actually take a step back and look at this situation properly. Okay, I saw some footage on a YouTube video about these public housing towers that have been deemed as I forget the word they used, but basically like unlivable for people, right? And they showed bathrooms where the toilet wasn't even fitted properly, like it's been destroyed somehow. Cupboards and things all broken and hanging off hinges, and floors just like dirty and scummy, and all this. And then there was like some, I don't know if she was to do with like building inspection or if she was a politician, but she was talking about it not meeting the health and safety requirements for airflow, like ventilation and fire safety, and even personal safety and security and stuff like that. And these places are not just like, say, low income families or single mums or something like that. It is also you've got people in there who used to be transient, so they used to be homeless. There are people in there that do have drug problems. There are people in there that are possibly to do with crime. When people leave prison as well, jail, they also get assistance into social housing, government housing, and places like this is where they get put. So they're mixed in as well with your single mums and your whatnot. And obviously there are some safety concerns, okay? But when you're talking about the place just basically falling apart, crumbling and whatnot, you got to be realistic. You can't be actually out here protesting to keep towers up that are in a condition like that. Disaster can happen, where like electrical fires break out and half the people don't have time to exit the building. A tower can collapse, due to really poor structural integrity. Okay, you got to be realistic about all of this, all right? And if their proposal is to have it demolished in 25 years, that's really ample time for people to relocate. Now, again, I've said before that, just like the stoicism talk that we had a while back, you have to take emotion out of things, and you have to see things in a black and white way in order to sort of succeed. Because if you get too emotional about stuff, you make the wrong decisions, you react in a way that doesn't benefit you any. If anything, it can actually harm you, like your situation, your case, your whatever, reputation, whatever. So yeah, take the emotion out of it. Look at things black and white, facts on a piece of paper. And so, as I've said, you've got plenty of time to get out in 25 years. But what I wanted to say as well is people need to actually really try their hardest to get off the teat of the government. And I'm not throwing shade at people who need that assistance, okay? I get it. Okay? I get that there are some people who find themselves in situations, where it can be that a business shuts down and then all of a sudden, the main provider of the family, let's just say, for example, it's the husband, right? No longer has an income. How are you paying your rent or your mortgage? Okay, disaster disaster can hit because somebody loses their income, and maybe it takes a while to find another job, like based on your qualifications and experience and whatever, and location, everything. And not everybody has a household either where both parents are working. Everyone's situations are different. And so, a situation like that, or a situation where, mum and dad separate, go their separate ways, and mum's got a couple kids to look after, and she's used to, having another provider, like having somebody who's their role in the family was going to a job, and now she's got to, put the kids in daycare and go work full time to cover her costs and stuff. There's lots of reasons why people need assistance from the government. I understand that, okay? But I feel like some people are a little bit too comfortable to take those handouts, and they don't even realize the amount of strings attached to it. Okay, so like for us, we haven't taken any assistance from the government in years, and that has been number one, I just couldn't stand dealing with them. But also, even with with government housing and stuff like we're talking about, they control a lot of things to do with your life to give you something, right? Okay, so even like the video I was just watching before, and they were talking to a resident of one of these towers, and he had used to be transient, a homeless person, and he had this old dog, and he had previously himself had pneumonia, really, really bad, probably from being on the streets, and he's talking about his fear about being back on the street, or he has to just go where they tell him to go, where they give him a place, and that he might not be able to keep his dog, which is upsetting for him because, his dog's on his last legs, he's pretty old. And, but he's talking about that he'd like to stay in the same area, probably because of connections he's made, whether that's to do with services, or, his own friends and stuff that he's made, whatever it is. And just think about that for a second. Just think about how the government, through social services, can control whether or not you get to keep your dog. They can control what region of the state you get put in. Basically, you have to live now. You have to start a whole new life there. Okay, even through COVID, I think I already said this, but even through COVID, you know, there was so many people who lost their homes, not just mortgages because they couldn't afford to keep up with their mortgage when they're told they can't work, but even rentals because you know, the landlords themselves wouldn't cop the loss and things, so they were moving into their own rentals, and you know, what do you think those renters were doing? Well, you can't go out and go get another rental when you've got no income coming in and you don't know when you're going to be. And Centrelink was, you know, the government was making it difficult to get payments and stuff. Do you know what government housing was doing at the time? If you couldn't home yourself, if you couldn't sort yourself out with something, they would relocate you and your children to wherever in the state there was a space at a caravan park for you guys to park up for a while. Not permanently, just for a while until they could figure out something else to do with you. You know, your kids have to relocate schools. Your partner, yeah, well, he's going to have to get a new job now in a different region. You know, you have to get a different job too. You know, when you can work, of course. This is during COVID. Yeah, you know, like the government can control these things, and they also control, it's just like the no jab, no play thing. You know, they got a no jab, no pay thing as well. You know, all your kids have to be vaccinated up, vaccinate, or you're not getting any payments from social services. You're not getting a government house if you don't do what we say when we say to do it. If you don't jump through all these hurdles that we throw at you and show up to every appointment at one of our offices and get all your documents in order and you know, then you don't get $1 from them. There's a lot of strings attached to dealing with them. You know, they've got to know all your business. You know, they've got to know what you ate for breakfast. You know, they've got to know everyone you deal with. Like, it's very invasive. It's very controlling. It's almost like being, you know, submissive to an abusive partner, I would say. That's how it feels to deal with the government through social services. More than it feels like it's a helping hand. Okay, there is a big problem, I would say, with social services in this country. And as this news piece was pointing out as well, you know, these towers have become decrepit and unsafe and not up to standard for people to live in because the government wasn't putting money in for maintenance and refurbishment over the years since they were built in the, I believe it was 60s and 70s. You know, that is quite some time ago. And the government should be, you know, paying for the upkeep of social housing and making sure that they are up to standards. It shouldn't get to the point where we're talking about things having to be demolished, whether it's just a single standing house or it's a tower. Yeah, we shouldn't be getting to the point where we're talking about things having to be demolished. It should have already been like looked after this whole time, so that wouldn't happen. Do you know what I mean? Because if there was private landlords making their renters live in appalling conditions and there was no maintenance done to properties for years and years and years and years and years, they could probably be sued. They could probably be put in jail for like safety neglect or something like that, you know, causing harm to people. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a double standard. And I would like to also quickly mention Dave Hughes, you know, beloved Australian character. Yeah, he's really been quite vocal lately with, you know, his hot take on everything that the government has been doing, like to do with their budget and how they spend our blood, sweat and tears tax dollars. And he made a proposal in a video the other day that I stumbled across on Facebook. He was suggesting that, you know, maybe it should be like law in Australia that people can earn, you know, up to $52,000 a year without being taxed. You don't get taxed on that. And then if you earn more than that, then you can start being taxed, right? So that people have a better chance of, you know, having a fair go and like making it in this country. You know what I mean? Like it is pretty crap that, you know, in this country, you're taxed on everything. You know, you're taxed on every good and service that you buy. You know, you're taxed on your income, you're taxed on your super. You know, you just, I feel like it's, and you're not even consulted with about how that's spent, you know. And they say that they've got their experts dealing with this and this, but you know, how often, just like with these towers, how often does it end up that it's like the government has made bad choices and the government has made mistakes with you know, decisions they've made and where they've put their money. And you know, it is pretty annoying, stressful, frustrating, whatever, you know, to think about even the like misspending that the government does. Like, I would say it was misspending. I would say it was irresponsible spending, and should have been consulted with the people in, like, just send out a text message vote, man. You know, should we be sending millions or billions of dollars towards, you know, helping Ukraine? Should we be, you know, sending or spending, you know, millions or billions of dollars on this project? Or should we be, you know, investing that money into social housing? Should we be investing that money into fixing the health system? You know, making more things available to more people. You know, there's so many, I can't think of right now because I'm rushing and I'm home and I'm at the end, but there's so many different things that I think that the people would vote that they want their tax dollars spent on, and that's how it should be working as well. It shouldn't just be that we're just told by the government, oh yeah, by the way, this is what we're going to spend your money on. It shouldn't work that way, you know. And maybe more people would be inclined to be up to date with their taxes and stuff like that if they felt like honestly, you know, happy with and proud of how their government spends their money, you know, instead of just like annoyed all the time that, you know, they've got busted tires and you know, bent axles and all this sort of thing from, you know, the huge crater potholes that they constantly are bashing into in the road. You know, just there's numerous problems all around, just with the roads, with transport, with housing, with health, you know, you name it. And yeah, I think that people would be happier with the government and paying taxes and all the rest of it if they knew that it was going genuinely to things that they approve of. And it's like we've talked about before with the pub test. I feel like basically nothing that the government does anymore would pass the pub test. I feel like everyone's just shitty at them about everything. And you know, they try to, like, it's like, again, like with a narcissist or an abuser, you know how they kind of like talk in circles and they belittle you for having an opinion that's different to them, and all that sort of stuff. That's just what the government does now. It's like, you're stupid for questioning what we're doing. Instead of like having respect for you having a different opinion, you know, it's, you're stupid if you question what we're doing. You know, and meanwhile, we've got, you know, the government's been flooding this country, as we've talked about before, with, you know, over 260,000 immigrants every single year, just flooding, flooding, flooding. You know, all of our problems still not being adequately fixed. You know, and I just feel like, yeah, Dave Hughes, he's onto it. You really should take a look at some of the videos that he's been releasing, because I feel like he's really onto it. He should actually try to somehow get involved in a political group, because obviously not Labour, because yeah, he's really onto it. And you know, he's one of them guys as well who, it's like, we all like, I feel like we would all trust Dave Hughes to run this country more than we would trust our current Prime Minister, to be honest. I would. Anywho, gotta leave it there. You all have a good day, and also have a think about what I said about with thinking a bit more like the Stoics. You know, leave emotion out of it, think about things a bit more black and white, so you can like just have your facts straight and respond to any situation a bit more appropriately. And I would say you would get more success when you take emotion out of things. Yeah. Anywho, thanks for watching, and I will see you all soon. Bye.